let's get into that, Professor. Do you see this heading towards investigations, criminal prosecutions, potentially? I mean, we've obviously seen Donald Trump charged with the crimes before, faced his own trials, but do you see the President of the United States being investigated, and along with other high-profile names?
There's absolutely no chance that the U.S. Justice Department will do anything because Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, was the Attorney General of Florida. I've called her the utterly corrupt Pam Bondi. When citizens complained about Trump's scam university, Trump University, which he eventually had to admit was a fraud and refund some money to people, she shut down the investigation and she accepted an illegal $25,000 campaign contribution from Trump's charitable foundation. Charitable foundations are not allowed to give money to campaigns. She took the money and her staff defended taking the money, which tells you that they are lawless. So the chance the federal government in this administration will do anything is zero and none. But also, Jeffrey Epstein died 6 years ago. The statute of limitations for any crime I've been able to imagine, and I teach law, out of these events is more than 5 years ago, the statute of limitations period. So I don't see the prospect of any criminal charges. What I do see is the prospect of serious civil litigation, and there are lawyers representing, it appears to be a couple hundred of what the most recent indications are of more than 1,000 13, 14, 15-year-olds who were sexually assaulted. So I think you're going to see the civil litigation. And of course, the Trump administration will try and stop all of that litigation, as they've been doing for as long as it's been filed.
Well, how do you think these allegations against Donald Trump will affect his presidency? Do you see these files being the demise of him as a president?
Not these files. I don't think there's anywhere near enough here. A lot of smoke. I mean, just billows of smoke coming out of the basement of Trump Tower, and Mar-a-Lago. But I don't think this is enough. I think what potentially could force Trump out or be forced out by his cabinet under the 25th Amendment of the American Constitution is irrefutable photographic or video evidence of Donald Trump assaulting a 13 or 14-year-old. There is court testimony under oath, written testimony, but under oath, that Donald Trump did exactly that and that there is such evidence, photographs and videotapes. That's why it's important that they've got 3 million more pages or individual documents that they have not released, and they say they're not going to release. Now, I will also tell you, in America, on American radio and podcasts and TV shows, I've had people push back and tell me that they don't care because Trump isn't doing that now. He did that in the past. And if that's true, that says something absolutely horrible, in my view, about morality in America in the 21st century.
Yeah, you mentioned these videos, so I'm just going to read off the document. So it says it says the victim reportedly knew about criminal activity that occurred in multiple states on airplanes and told complainants that there were films of prominent men such as Epstein, Clinton, and Trump, and that Ghislaine Maxwell is in these videos as well. So if these videos come to light, the chances are very slim, Professor, but if they do come to light, that would kind of force Trump to resign.
Well, I don't know if it would force him to resign. I have a hard time knowing Donald, as I have for almost 40 years, resigning, but being forced out is another matter. I mean, it would be a real test of the House would impeach him, even with the current Republican majority, if that happened, I suspect. But would the Senate give the 2/3 votes? The Senate is essentially 50-50 right now. You need 67 votes to convict. And I don't know. That would be very revealing. But Trump will be mostly vulnerable if that sort of evidence comes out. By the way, there's another way to get at this evidence that gets very little attention. When the FBI or other law enforcement agencies in America execute a search warrant and take your property, whether it's your computer or cell phone or anything else, they leave you, first of all, a detailed inventory. And when they no longer need the materials, they're supposed to return them to you or provide you with verified copies. Now, Todd Blanche, the number 2 Justice Department official who was Donald Trump's criminal lawyer at the case where he was convicted of 34 felonies, Todd Blanche has indicated that they haven't released material they regard as child pornography, the mere possession of which is a crime. Just looking at it is a crime. Well, what I described as the evidence that would, I believe, lead to people pushing Donald Trump out of office is by definition child pornography. So they've basically signaled that if we have pictures like this or video of Donald Trump, we're not going to let you see them because they would be pornographic by nature, because they involve a serious offense against a child, sex offense against a child. But the estate should have copies of all of these. And I suspect if the Democrats gain control of the House, that in 2027, they're going to subpoena the estate for the records. And then we would have a much better chance of finding out, is there photographic evidence that Donald Trump is a repeat child rapist, or in fact, is he being wrongly accused and mistreated? And if he's being wrongly accused, the obvious question to ask is, why are you not releasing all the files if you have no risk here?
So these files being made public, Professor, it just shows how high the stakes are now for the midterm elections.
Yes, I think you combine that with what's happening in the American economy. Things are going badly compared to the Biden administration. Compare it, add to it the raids in Minnesota and elsewhere by these masked agents with no badges on, who are seen in numerous videotapes saying things like, "If you speak to me disrespectfully, I'm going to erase you. And I'm an American citizen. We don't care." And they throw you in the back of a car. That is hurting Trump very badly. He's down to roughly a 1/3 approval rating. That's a big drop from his election, where he got 49% of the vote, just under half.
Professor, do you think the DOJ did enough to protect the Epstein victims? Because I want to read out this joint statement where they condemned the incomplete Epstein file release. So they said that the files being released was sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. That is outrageous. As survivors, we should never be the ones named, scrutinized, re-traumatized, while Epstein's enablers continue to benefit from secrecy. This is a betrayal of the very people that the process is supposed to serve.
Well, I agree. I don't see any reason to release and unredact the names of the now grown women, but who were 13, 14-year-old girls at the time. But they're also clearly holding back the names of Trump's friends. And Trump has publicly said, well, I'm concerned here that my friends will be hurt. The law is very specific. They are not to protect reputations in making redaction decisions. Significantly, the new document dump includes Howard Lutnick, Trump's commerce secretary, who owned the townhouse next door to Jeffrey Epstein's in Manhattan, and who has said that Epstein was running an extortion racket by getting compromising photos of men with underage girls. I mean, he didn't say it as fully as I did, but it's very clear from his remarks that's what he's saying. Turns out he's in the files. A lot of other people are in the files. Nothing about it suggests Lutnick did anything improper. Let me be very clear about that. But the way they have redacted these files, I think, does leave the Justice Department open to accusations of partisanship. And putting Lutnick's name out there would be one of the few places they could say, no, there's no partisanship. Look, we put Lutnick's name in there. But a lot of the redactions appear to be politically motivated. We're not going to be able to find out about that unless the two congressmen, the one Republican, one Democrat, who are behind the Epstein Disclosure Act, are successful in court and able to get behind those redactions. And by the way, what reason is there to not let Congress in closed-door meetings see all of the files completely unredacted? I can predict to you what the Trump administration would say. Well, we can't show you any of the child pornography. You can't see that. Even though you couldn't prosecute for that crime if you were a prosecutor without seeing it. I mean, it's a catch-22.